Government agencies, like all enterprises, are working hard to secure increasingly dynamic and highly distributed IT environments. For those responsible for securing government agency IT systems and data, the job of defending today's dynamic perimeter has also become increasingly complex. I'm Wyatt Cash with Scoop News Group, and here to talk about how government agencies are keeping up with those challenges is Gerald Caron, Chief Information Officer in the Office of the Inspector General in the Department of Health and Human Services. Jerry, glad you could join us. And let me start by asking, how is your agency's evolution towards a multi-cloud network environment shifting your view about the role of firewalls and perimeter defense?
Yeah, they definitely totally embrace the cloud, using the right cloud for the right mission needs and business requirements. So we are a multi-cloud environment in that sense. But as far as it goes for the perimeter, it's no longer that castle and moat. We're changing our attack surface basically from a cybersecurity perspective. Now it's out in the cloud. It's not within our data center walls and things like that. So definitely, I think that's the good thing about when we start talking about zero trust is what are we really trying to protect, and putting our protections around those applications or those data repositories and focusing it from that way. Then those end up basically becoming the perimeter based on the identity, right data, the right people at the right time. So definitely it changes the concept and the mindset. Not to say that there isn't a place for the firewalls that we have know and love from today and the past. Those still have a place, but I think it's more looking at it from an architectural view and how we put the protections in the right place depending on what we're protecting. So that the cloud aspect and the multi-cloud environments, definitely that change in attack surface, the change in the culture and how we do cybersecurity with the introduction of, well, zero trust has been around for many years, but now, people are embracing it, starting to get it. So definitely that's the way to go and focus, on those micro segmentation aspects, not just the big castle and moat, or I like to refer to it as the Tootsie Roll Pop, hard outer shell with the soft gooey center.
Well, one thing that's also different today is just the increasing volumes of data traffic and the need to encrypt and decrypt all that traffic. So how is that reshaping your view of what modern firewalls need to accomplish?
Yeah, so we're creating more data than ever. We're becoming data-driven organization, relying on data to make the right decisions because of the availability of that data and the usefulness of that data, really driving the mission. So now with the introduction of cloud, data is flowing in different places as well. So understanding what your data flows are is something that is one of the foundational projects we're undertaking for our zero trust. So understanding, like taking an application, understanding what that data flow is. So I know where it's going, where it's and what is it I'm protecting, because it's not always sitting in place. It's usually in motion. So we want to understand, and does that look right? Because once we grandfather and we can baseline what looks right, then when something that happens that's abnormal or it's flowing into someplace else, it's like, is that right? We need to take an action. What's the policy we need to build around that? So that's one of the foundational things that we're doing is understanding and mapping our data flows. That's not doing network mapping. That's actually mapping the data flows of a system, of our data center, what's talking to what at any given time, so we can get an understanding and baseline of what we are trying to protect and what normal looks like, so we can take action when abnormal happens. So that's something that's very important, I think, and is a very big foundational piece of what we're doing.
Absolutely. Well, next, where are you seeing your infrastructure and security modernization efforts paying off with a stronger or more dynamic perimeter?
I look at it as an opportunity. It's enabling. Our undertaking of our zero trust architecture is also going to bring benefits for our end users. Like I said, today we rely on VPNing and coming into an on-premises data center that we own with our firewalls, so we get all that telemetry. With the introduction of TIC 3.0 and but still meeting those security requirements, because we still have to have that telemetry to be able to protect the data and our users. We now have that flexibility to go more direct, not have to rely on that on-premises firewall or data center just to boomerang back out, because we just talked about in our first question about going to the cloud. Now, how inefficient is it for me to be sitting at home or sitting in the office, VPNing to an on-premise data center just to do what? Boomerang back out to the cloud or the internet. So there's definitely, we're looking at that. There's some technologies we're looking at that give us that same security telemetry that we can leverage as part of our risk monitoring and our dynamic risk scoring, so that we can take appropriate actions, still have that visibility that we need, but the users get the end benefit of going more direct. So hopefully performance improvements, as well as better access to those cloud applications as a result. When we do our identity management, how they authenticate, being more mobile as a result, not having to rely on that VPN and one of those two data centers to boomerang back out to. It should be more seamless to them. So we look at it as not just a cybersecurity effort that we're undertaking, but a modernization effort that's bringing those benefits. So again, getting the right data to the right people at the right time is very important, because that's the mission that we're supporting. So we look at it as a modernization effort, not just solely a cybersecurity effort. So how do people want to work is something that we're inventorying.
You mentioned zero trust earlier. I'm curious to know also, how are the government's zero trust objectives, particularly around network environments, reshaping your approach and your agency's approach to its top security priorities for the coming year?
Yeah, and I was very ecstatic to see the federal government as a whole, embrace the zero trust concept. As far as the network itself, I've always looked, even before executive orders and everything, network is just a transport, so to speak. And I'm kind of oversimplifying it. I know, encryption is still important, all those things, but it's moving the protections closer to those data sources, hardening those applications in such a way so that we're moving the perimeters and kind of doing these micro perimeters, and not solely relying on the network to be that security enforcement like we previously did with our legacy concepts. And it becomes more of a transport. Now, not to say that I'm not going to do things, like VLANs and my macro segmentation, of the network that I manage and rely on. But the more mobile user, they're now using home networks and things like that, networks that are outside of my control. So what's the visibility? What's the risk tolerances that I have for those types of things? Where am I getting my telemetry? Like I said, with the TIC 3.0 flexibilities and some of the technologies we're looking at, I can still get security telemetry. From an operational perspective, there is tools that we're looking at to kind of get that more end-to-end monitoring to understand, if you're at home, Wyatt, and you're saying, hey, I'm trying to do this VTC, things are going bad, but you're on your home network, there's visibility into the ISPs I can have, so I can stitch together that total end-to-end. So we're looking at those kind of things so we can still support our users in a mobile fashion, but we're looking at the network as more of a transport, because we're relying on networks more that we don't manage ourselves. But what's within my control, like the networks that we do manage, we're going to still do things there. I'm not saying that we wouldn't do that, but we look at the network a little differently, and it's not that hard, fast enforcement thing that we previously kind of took it for. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. Well, Gerald Caron, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to share your insights on the art of defending a dynamic perimeter in today's government. So thank you for being with us.
Yeah, thank you. I always have a pleasure to talk to you.